Chapter 13. The Berserker Unleashed. The breaking point came at 19 minutes and 43 seconds. The extraction rig, built to drain energy from beings who should never have been contained, was tearing itself apart. Goku's Saiyan body had endured longer than Kraven's calculations allowed, but flesh and will can only defy cosmic law for so long. Survival demanded something no machine, no dimension was meant to witness. Emergency shutdown failing. Kraven's mechanical voice fractured into static. His sensors screamed as they registered energy bleeding through laws of physics themselves. He's no longer drawing from this reality. He's taking from outside it. The familiar golden blaze of Goku's aura inverted. Heat became hunger. Radiance curdled into a sickly emerald glare. Threads of green tightening into a light that stunned the eyes and split the mind. Then the chamber broke. Not from force, but from incompatibility. Reality inside the chamber no longer matched the one outside. And from that fracture stepped something that should not exist. The figure that emerged was both smaller and larger, mortal and impossible. His outline bent perception. A mane of wild hair lashed between gold and venomous green. Eyes, emerald flames, stripped of warmth, scanned the world like a predator, deciding what to devour first. This was no martial evolution. This was what happened when Saiyan blood was caged, warped, tortured, until survival demanded it tap the deepest genetic abyss. The legendary form, Uzaru's primal fury, and the warp's poison had fused into one unholy state. Hungary. One word, stretched across registers, rippled through stone and bone alike. Hunger vast enough to encompass stars. And though its power dwarfed armies, the creature was weakened. The extraction had carved too deep. What should have annihilated galaxies now smoldered at a fraction of its truth. 30% of infinity was still infinity, but fragile enough that perhaps, just perhaps, it could be opposed. Chaos Lord Vashtor moved to strike, confident in the gifts of his dark gods. Speed from Slaanesh, strength from Khorne, endurance from Myrtle, sorcery from Tej. None of it mattered. The Berserker blurred, existing in multiple places at once. The blow that landed was not trained technique. It was bone-breaking instinct, the raw violence of predators before language. Vashtor's brass and crystal frame cratered through walls, shrieking metal swallowing him whole before the fortress slowed his flight. "It's rewriting the rules," gasped Epistolary Marcus, blood dripping from his nose as psychic senses buckled. "It's consuming everything. Warp currents, extraction residue, even our thoughts. Turning it all into fuel." The Berserker's gaze fell upon the Daemon host. For the first time in their immortal cruelty, they felt it. Fear. This was not a protector wielding strength for others. This was appetite given flesh. What followed was no battle. It was feeding. A cornate Berserker roared and charged. In a blink, he was in the Berserker's grasp. His chest split open like rotted timber. Emerald fire crawled into the wound, siphoning marrow, nerves, soul. The warrior collapsed as dust, his essence swallowed whole. Plague-bearers lunged, their filth dripping in anticipation. They never reached him. The Berserker's skin shifted, cells mutating faster than corruption could root. He seized one by its sagging throat, tore its head free with his teeth, and drank the ichor that fountained forth. The corpse dissolved, leaving only steam curling from the Berserker's lips. A Tsen-Chian sorcerer raised wards, reciting equations older than suns. The Berserker simply stepped through them. His fist punched not the body, but the spell itself, shattering glyphs into shards of light. He bit down on the sorcerer's skull, crunching bone, devouring thought, until the spellcaster ceased to exist in any dimension. A Slaaneshi prince dared to confront him, wings unfurled in terrible beauty. The berserker's only response was to rip them free, muscles and tendons peeling like fruit, before driving his jaws into the prince's chest. The daemon screamed not from pain, but from the horror of being consumed. Beauty stripped down to meat, glory reduced to fuel. Each strike fed him. Each death made the emerald fire flare hotter. He was starvation armed with fists, teeth, and boundless rage. Yet, even this nightmare faltered. His movements were monstrous but heavy, slowed by the toll of extraction. Blows that should have erased armies merely shattered them. Energy blasts ripped steel and flesh, but stopped short of sundering the stars. Diminished, but still enough to threaten existence. He's running on instinct, and what's left of drained reserves. Vex calculated aloud, his mind clinging to reason as horror took hold. The siphoning saved us. Without it, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Vashtor dragged himself from the crater, his body knitting together with the will of 4 gods. But his soul had cracked. He had battled primarchs, clashed with greater daemons. Nothing compared.
Retreat!
His command broke like glass.
All forces, withdraw! Now!
The daemon host, eternal servants of ruin, obeyed. Warp gates split open in panic, armies vanishing in desperate flight. For the first time, chaos fled. Craven, amid shattering dimensions and rivers of gore, did not stop working. Servo arms clicked, sealing vials of blood, fragments of hair, flakes of flesh shed mid-transformation. Dormant sequences awakened, he muttered, lenses focusing as his claws closed stasis lids. The body under stress becomes blueprint. Humanity will have its champion, but he was not alone. In the corrupted shadows, cultists scavenged their own trophies. Vials slipped into warp-tainted containers, pulsing with corruption, each promising horrors even Craven could not predict. Then came the scream. Not sound, but a wave that crossed stars. Every psyker, from trembling astropath to ancient Eldar seer, saw the vision. Worlds stripped to ash. Systems hollowed into silence. Civilizations not conquered, but eaten, drained until nothing remained to resist. A predator feeding until only void was left. Marcus dropped to his knees, blood pouring from his eyes. This is the weakened state. If he had come through at full strength, silence answered. They all knew. The berserker stood alone amid the ruin, chest heaving. His aura flickered between brilliance and decay, biology cracking under strain. For the first time since his emergence, something faintly human quivered in his emerald gaze. Have to fight it, he growled, voice echoing from too many throats. Not me, not who I am. That flicker of resistance was enough. Across the galaxy, alarms activated, protocols laid in desperate secrecy sparking to life. Every major power prepared, not to defeat him, but to contain the apocalypse that breathed in his chest. He stood trembling, trapped between what he had been and what his blood demanded he become. Instinct screamed for growth, for endless feeding. Spirit whispered of protection, of choice. The battle within him would decide the fate of all. And time was running out. Chapter 14. Aftermath and Choice. The air still shimmered where reality had bent. The extraction chamber lay in ruin, steel twisted like molten wax, walls scorched, and floors slick with blood and ichor. The berserker stood in the center, chest heaving, aura flickering between gold and sickly green. Every step left a crater, every breath rattled the air like a store. He had consumed, destroyed, survived. And now, he hesitated. Across the galaxy, fleets and armies had converged, not in formation, but in desperation. Eldar craft worlds shimmered into the void, wraithbone hulls humming with psychic energy. Metron tomb ships phased into reality, Gauss guns already charged, awaiting the impossible. Even orc wargs diverted, their primitive instincts sensing a threat that could consume the fight itself. "Maintain distance," Captain General Trajan Valoris's voice rang out across channels, golden authority cutting through alien languages and psychic static. "The entity is weakened, but still capable of annihilation. Dimensional gateway teams, prepare final translations." The Berserker's eyes swept over the amassed power. Emerald hunger burned, flaring in every glance. His instincts whispered, consume, absorb, grow. But another voice lingered behind the frenzy. Remember who you are. Protect. A battered orc transport cut through a minor warp riff. Its bridge housed war boss Grimtusk Ironjaw, scorched and mechanical, but still resolute. "Goku," he bellowed, voice booming across closed channels. "You gotta fight it. Remember who you are. Remember why you fight for the right reasons." The Berserker froze. The green fire in his eyes flickered, human confusion piercing the hunger. "Grim Tusk," he whispered, voice hoarse but human, trembling with the weight of instinct colliding with memory. I'm trying, but it's so hungry. It says, consume, to survive." "Don't listen to them," Grimtusk barked. "Listen to us, to the boys who learn from Ya. Strength isn't just taking, it's growing, together." Something shifted, not fully tamed, but pushed back. The aura stuttered, flickering between predator and protector. He looked at the assembled coalition, at the galaxy's mightiest warriors gathered in one place, not as fuel, but as people worth saving. "The gateway, it's ready," Farsia Eldanesh called, her voice threading psychic harmony across every channel. "But we must act now. His control is fading." The dimensional portal tore open at the chamber's heart, not a crude rift, but a calibrated path to the space between realities. Reality flowed around it like liquid starlight, reflecting off the Berserker's trembling form. A sound cut through the tension. Laughter. Pure, human, joyful, familiar. A reminder of everything that had come before the hunger. That's my laugh," a Berserker whispered. His voice trembled, carrying emotion untainted by genetic compulsion. "That's who I really am. Not this hunger." The choice resolved itself. Not through force, not through threats, but by remembering the truth, the being he had been, the warrior he had trained to be, the protector he had chosen to become. He stepped toward the portal. The golden aura returned, the green hunger receding, leaving exhaustion and relief in its wake. "Thank you," he said, voice growing steadier, human with every word. "All of you, for giving me a choice." In the laboratories behind the chaos, Craven sealed his final samples, meticulous and mechanical. "Project Golden Air. Complete," he murmured, servo skulls sealing vials as the last traces of the Berserker's passage shimmered into stasis. And in the shadows, corrupted cultists clutched their own spoils, warped specimens pulsing with energies that had tasted the warp and hunger alike. "The apex predator shall rise from corruption itself," the lead cultist whispered, voice weaving with Nurgle's faint harmonics. "The gods will have their perfect weapon." The Berserker stepped into the dimensional portal. Reality flowed around him, burning away the warp-enhanced power, leaving only the essence of strength earned, the lessons carved into flesh and mind, the memory of hunger resisted. When he emerged, it was into familiar void, his home universe. Planet Namek rotated beneath him, serene under three suns. He hovered, restored to his original form, but altered. The power remained, tempered by wisdom, grounded by experience. "I made it," he murmured. Exhaustion and relief carried through his voice. "I'm home." And as he descended toward the surface, ready to face what awaited, he carried a new truth. Power without purpose is nothing. Strength without heart is hollow. What mattered was choice. The anomaly had returned home, but the shadow of the universe, where hope itself had been a radical act, lingered in memory. A reminder that, even in the darkest transformations, humanity could survive.